All right. Can everybody hear me all right? I hope we're live. It's always an experiment. Every time we go live, it's been 3 months since we went live before, so I hope it's all set. Welcome to the live stream. We're celebrating 200 development logs, which is almost 4 years. I think the project's been on longer than that, but we've been documenting it since then. Well, I haven't. I've only been on for a year and a half. But Martin has. And Michi, how long have you been? Have you been around for 400 devlogs?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, very nice. Oh yeah.
I think we didn't start devlogging before Michael was part of the team, so that's pretty much it.
Okay, I recently saw that our Twitter is like, I don't even dare to say it, but it's like 9 years old or something. It's you reserved it. Oh, we got 500 followers. We got another reason. Okay, now I'm cracking open a cold one here. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Martin's got the whiskey.
I have my wife walking into the picture apparently.
We actually.
I have to turn on my picture real quick.
I was gonna say I got this from the market on Katoa, but nobody's selling Katoa ale yet, so get on that so I can make beer jokes. So yeah, we act like really we hit 500 Twitter followers today. I thought it would be funny if it coincided, and it actually did. And the account has been it's been on Twitter for 9 years. Oh my god.
Yeah, because I mean, there has been a Prosperous Universe before, a project that died, I think, sometime in 2013 or something. So this is actually the second incarnation of the project.
Oh, okay, all right. And those early screenshots we saw in the development log, those were from this run, right? From this
generation, yes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I just looked it up. The first devlog is week number 7 actually.
Oh.
Maybe on our website the first 6 are missing or so, and it's November 2015. So that's pretty accurate. I think we started in early October or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when we started sketching the project and deciding what it's going to be. I think that was sometime late summer, something like that.
Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do today is talk a little more about this, reminisce about stuff we've done, but also stuff we're gonna do. Ask questions about the status quo or the future. Just type them up in the chat. We're gonna address them. When the time comes. I'll try not to miss any. And this time I moved the computer close enough. Last time I was trying to see the second screen and couldn't read anything. I'm not making that mistake again. All right, so just to address the very big most recent milestone, we've gone free to play, so a lot more people have joined in. We just talked about it. It's 400 people a day roughly playing right now, and something like double to triple that a week. So that's pretty amazing. I think we were at about 250 daily before, so it's gone up quite a bit. No, actually, you know what? I think it's even less than that. So I think it about doubled in active users, which is great. And we made some room for new people by deleting old accounts as well. I think Prometor was pretty full pretty quickly again. This time for real.
I think it's full now.
Yeah. And now they're all active? Are they still pending deletions on Prometheus soon?
Deletions are ongoing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Every time a player stops playing, I think he's deleted after a week or so.
Okay. Oh. Martin has spotty internet, I think.
No. It's the Discord app is having a few issues with the camera, so every now and then I have to restart it. So.
All right.
All good.
So what do you guys? We are like always. We are totally winging this live stream. So are we gonna do a little discussion about the past and future first, or are we gonna read some of the questions as more questions come in? What do you? I think questions are always good to get us started, right? So did gather some beforehand.
Yeah, let's just to warm up. Just let us hear one of the questions, and then
exactly.
To get inspired to ask.
So we had some questions in the chat, in the Discord chat before. So starting with, what's been the most surprising thing to happen to the game economy since the F2P launch by Isabab? So personally, I'm gonna say my PE business is kind of going under. I feel like the prices are in free fall. But other than that, from a developer perspective, what do you guys say?
Well, it's kind of embarrassing, but the price bands feature didn't work out as intended.
Yeah.
And right after the free-to-play launch, I went into parental leave. So I just watched from a very far distance with very, very low internet connectivity how the price bands interrupted everyone's trading habits.
So you saw the smoke and flames from afar?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was kind of messed up. We didn't think about some of the implications that it would shut out, due to previous prices, would shut out some people completely and didn't have any chance of regulating itself.
Yeah, I think the problem is that we had existing orders and the price bands really didn't have the time to evolve to the orders properly.
Yeah.
And somehow that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. So
I still think that price bands are a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So the initial commodities can't be sold, and well, yeah, it's a cheating protection.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see how it turns out.
Yeah.
And if they activate the narrow bands again, let's see.
So for all the haters of price bands, the one most common thing I found people that did cheat actually before the FTP launch was people moving their starting inventory for really cheap to their main accounts and selling it off for a big profit. So that was the main thing people were trying to game the system. So that was one of the things that the price bands were designed to prevent. So what ended up happening to the price bands? How did you patch them?
I mean, my hotfix, because Michi wasn't there and I didn't develop them in the first place, so I kind of had to find my way into that code. What I basically did was I said, first of all, I got rid of the difference between pro player price bands and non-pro player price bands, because I mean that's something we really did not anticipate at all, although we could have.
Yeah.
That is utterly confusing, obviously, because you as a pro player place an order and you wonder why some other player that's not pro cannot match it, and that's because of the different price band. So that's the first thing I did. Basically, I got rid of that difference, and so we now only have one price band. And then I made it a lot wider. Really just improvised based on very few examples that people were complaining about, just to get the price bands in the rough ballpark of what realistic prices could possibly be. And also, if there's a market maker, of course, that market maker price will be the limit of the price band in either direction.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of my hot fix. And I think we haven't gotten around to discussing what we're going to do with them going forward. I mean, Michi is back from vacation one day or something, like it's his first day back in office. We haven't had time to talk about this stuff just yet.
Yeah, it was also unfortunate. I had my first week off, I think this year, last week, and it was just when Michi returned. So today was actually the first day when we were all back. So some of the things we may not even have gone over, but feel free to join in on the discussion as we're having it.
Maybe that's an interesting tidbit, because the question was what was interesting or surprising or whatever about the free-to-play launches.
Yeah.
From my perspective, we launched free-to-play and then basically everyone had to leave for one reason or another.
Yeah.
He was on vacation, he was on rent leave. I had basically super short work days for the whole of last week because we have a kid, right? It's
Yeah.
We're adults now. We have to take care of stuff, and my wife was gone, so I was working 4 hours a day or something with 2 own projects, customer project, administration, and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that was
kind
an
of the defining
unfortunate time.
feature for me of that free-to-play launch. On the one hand, it went super well. Like I was incredibly amazed by the amounts of new players that joined.
Yeah.
At the same time, I couldn't really enjoy it or really experience it because I just didn't have the time. So I hope this is going to be better for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Let's just say we don't release right before vacation.
Let's not do that again.
Yeah.
Fridays are also bad.
Yeah, I don't really care about what weekday it is, but normal people probably do. Forest Walken says in the chat, prize bands are a good idea, just need some tweaking. Yeah, I think so too. Well, we're gonna figure out how to make them work, and if they end up not working, we'll see. So what else has there been in terms of question? Maybe from another person. So maybe the one from Frostwood who said, there's been some talk about the disparity between new and old players. Any ideas on addressing that or whether it should be addressed at all? So to clarify, the disparity means it's harder for startup companies to get in the game, right? So because bigger players have an easier time selling their commodities for cheap, I guess. What do you guys say?
I've prepared for that question.
Oh, okay.
You're prepared.
That's the question, and I thought of an answer that's pretty honest.
Go ahead.
I would say it's something that we know that we have to talk about and invest brain juice into. But at the same time, because we know that we are still in an alpha phase where we have resets in the future, it's not the top priority at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
So, it's obvious it's a huge issue once we have an indefinitely running game world because players are just going to amass wealth with no upper bounds, really. So this is going to be a huge issue once we decide not to do resets anymore. Mm-hmm. But until then, it's mostly a temporary issue. Obviously, it is a problem already, but it's not as big of an issue as it will be in the future. So at the moment, our focus is, I would say, on more content, on more fun gameplay, and then the more we move towards a non-reset version of the game, we have to talk about these things. But
all right.
But there's one feature we are going to release soon to address the problem. That's building degradation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also about the disparity between new and old players. So the idea behind building degradation is that production buildings lose their efficiency over time. And that means that old players with old buildings will have to spend money to renew their buildings, probably by just rebuilding them. And new players start at 100% efficiency, so they have a slight edge over the old players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. And then the running cost goes up if you have more buildings in a production line. So your degradation costs you more and more the bigger you are.
Yeah.
Another thing that we were sometimes suggested was that that bigger production orders would be cheaper, would be more efficient, but I feel like that would go the opposite direction, so we have to be careful about that, because bigger companies with more production lines can pump out bigger orders, I think, and rewarding that would make it even harder for startups to get into the market. So it's oftentimes there are cool ideas, but are oftentimes conflicting with one another in terms of balancing. Tsubame Dono asks in the chat, hi, how many active players are there on average? It's about 400 players daily right now that are active. So it's more throughout a week. Maybe you guys have the stats open.
I think there's last I checked, I think we were somewhere in the general ballpark of 1,000 active players per week. And the monthly actives at this point, we can really doesn't make really much sense. I don't know what the value is.
Yeah.
3,500.
Yeah. So 400 a day, 1,000 a week right now, which is all right for us, and you know. So all right. Any other?
It's actually surprising that the game still works.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, it's an alpha after all. It's going smoothly so far.
Aside from a few glitches after the mass killing on Promitor, it actually went surprisingly well from a technical point of view. Like I would have expected more issues, but so far it's been going rather smoothly. But we're becoming cautious. Like we were like before we did free to play, we would have no qualms about pumping out a new server version.
Yeah.
Just sometime during the day. I have a quick fix. Let's just pump it out. Now with usually, I mean, if I go into the game right now, we typically have 100 plus connected players at any given time.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes me a bit more careful about releasing patches.
Yeah, sure. On that note, the weird FX buffer thing where you can't, where you're restricted on the foreign exchange, that's already fixed, but it's not been rolled out yet for the reason Martin just mentioned.
Yeah.
It's always kind of risky.
Like this one tiny fix, and if I actually do a release, then I would like to do it with a few more things patched together. But we have to discuss this going forward, how we're going to do releases. I mean, there's also a few more technical things that we have to talk about to make releases a bit smoother. Like at the moment, it's quite a rough experience because when we do a patch at the moment, the game is pretty much down for I don't know, 10 minutes. Which is not ideal. It's acceptable, but if you want to have several releases a day, for example, if you're in a hot development phase or whatever, then that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We got some more comments and questions in the chat. So Fair46 points out that that's normal that big companies are able to undercut smaller ones. So it's kind of realistic in a way, and as long as everybody's able to make some profit and able to catch up at some point, that's not a big deal. I absolutely agree. One thing that is true in real life and not really in the game is that in real life you have different qualities of things. And
yeah, that's true.
I'm not really a game designer on Prosperous Universe, but I will say that people pay more for a certain brand or for a certain quality of thing that you can aim for if you're a small startup, as opposed to like a big production. And so, you know, that's not really reflected in the game, so you don't really have an advantage by being a hipster, like microbrew company that you could be in real life. Should small orders reward the high reactivity of players? Well, they already do, right? An order that's smaller and produced faster, you can sell sooner and set your prices more flexibly than if you were to wait 3 days before it's done.
That's an incredibly complex topic in Prosperous Universe, especially in the future, because you have so many factors that you have to keep in mind. Of course, if I do small orders, I can produce faster and I can react to changes in the market, but only if I'm at that market. If I have to ship stuff, then suddenly the economies of scale of transport are a factor in the calculation, so maybe it doesn't even make sense to do small orders. So it's like, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to these questions.
Yeah, don't listen to me on this kind of stuff. I get less than 100k in the bank in the game. So.
I'm playing to fix the market makers. I just collect money basically, and I don't know what to do with it because I don't have the time.
Okay.
Maybe I'll be play a market maker on the foreign exchange or something. I don't know.
All right. So Mighty Nikash is asking, from your personal view, how far you're in to call the game ready to run? I mean, it is running, but how far are we, like, percentage-wise? It's an MMO, so it'll be developed forever, essentially. But how far away are we from early access or from full release?
I mean, we always said the 1.0 release of Prosperous Universe will be the one where we decide, okay, we're not resetting that game world. And that is just something that I mean, we are basically celebrating 200 devlogs today, right?
Yep.
So, and if you would have asked me 100 devlogs ago how many more devlogs it's going to take to get to 1.0, I don't know how many weeks I would have guessed, but there's just no telling. Like,
Okay.
we're in first access right now. We're working on some pretty cool new big features that are, I guess, getting us into mid-game territory, let's call it that.
Yep.
Which hopefully sometime, by the end of this year is probably a bit optimistic, but sometime next year will allow us to switch to early, like something we call early access. That we say, okay, the game has enough content or is playable enough to say it's an actual like a good enough product offering that merits a monthly subscription fee, basically. Yeah. But that's really something that, even that is something that we're going to decide on the spot and depending on how well things go. And talking about 1.0 at this point is just, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it would just be fiction.
I would say it's judging from the past 4 years, it's probably years into the future.
Yeah, okay. So, what else do we have here? Again, Subama Donald saying, older companies have the advantage of an already built supply chain against new players. Maybe energy feature will solve the difference between those types of players. You mean because it's essentially the same, what I said earlier, you have a higher upkeep with a bigger company. We do have some sort of energy grid thing on the roadmap, don't we?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite future features,
but
it's not made the cut yet for on the roadmap.
Yeah, it's not essential.
It's a few releases out. We'll see.
I agree. I like managing that in City Skylines, along with the waste and stuff. Well, anyway, will there be qualities for items, or would it be too complicated to add? It's come up a few times, but I'm not sure where we stand on that right now.
We won't have quality for normal commodities, and that's because the complexity of markets will just explode. Because then you have like very good. What's the scale? If you have a fluent scale of quality, then that makes things awkwardly complicated. If there are like 5 steps of quality, then we make the markets 5 times larger, and that's a problem because we want to have a high volume on the commodity markets, and if we divide that by 5, that's just not what we want.
Yeah.
But we could say that we have different qualities, maybe in other items like ships or space station equipment or something like that.
Okay.
That's true.
There's always. We don't know what's in the future. Maybe at some point in the future we'll decide that for certain consumables that are not traded on the commodity exchanges, for example, we could add some kind of quality system. But it's not on the roadmap, as you'll see if you check. And it's something that could, of course, happen at some point, but it's not there yet.
Okay. Sorry for always looking away. I'm always looking into the chat just to read along. So Ragnar4 asks if we have any plans on adding some graphics, for example, the resource icons, ships, buildings, etc. So there is a visual overhaul coming. We've had designs made. I'm not gonna spill the beans too much. Some people have already seen it. We had a really cool, really good UI designer work on some visually overhauled versions of the screens, but I keep bugging the rest of the team about it, but it's not really a priority at this point. And it's not going to be more graphics per se, but it's going to be the ones that are there are going to be prettier. And shipbuilding is actually, there's been a years-old prototype of a 3D modular shipbuilding system, right? Is that still how it's gonna look?
Something like that, yeah. And eventually we want to have icons for all the commodities, but the material tree is changing all the time right now, and we just cannot afford a graphics designer to keep up with us changing the materials. And so we decided to go with these very generic ticker images.
Yeah.
And yeah, eventually, if we have shipbuilding, I want to have an image or maybe even a 3D model of the ship visible if you click on a ship.
That would be awesome.
It would bring up the basic information about the ship and just an image.
That is so
rendering
cool.
of that ship, how it's configured.
Yeah, like when you scan a ship in Elite Dangerous and it pops up there, it's just so immersive. I love it. Yeah. Okay, so on the shipbuilding thing, many people have been saying that ships are kind of the main constraint right now of companies trying to grow, and the chat is also addressing that. So do you consider shipbuilding, is it going to be a mid-game feature? Is it something that we're going to be adding sooner rather than later? Will there be ships you can build with low-tier workers? And also to answer that question, what tiers will shipbuilding be placed in? I'm assuming they mean what population tier, because you're either pro or you're not. You don't get more perks if you're a planet supporter than if you're a comet supporter. You have a pro license either way. So you don't have to, you can't pay to win essentially. But so how far is shipbuilding away? And if shipbuilding in a modular system is far away, can we still add shipping contracts and or buying ships from the market sooner than that?
Okay, that's a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe about the shipping contracts first.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I would love to add them, really, I would. And I haven't talked to the team yet, I forgot that in the team meeting today, but I would really love to see shipping contracts, a basic form of shipping contracts by the end of the year. We have the contract system, we have the local markets, and I think it's a perfect fit. And sure, we cannot go overboard with it. We don't have that much time for the shipping contract feature, but simple contracts, I think, would be doable this year, and I would really love to have them.
Mm-hmm. And
we're talking about. I'm looking for someone who can transport 500 or 100 tons of cargo from A to B or so.
Mm-hmm. That would be something people post on local market.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the shipping contracts are one of these classic examples of things that are, on the one hand, they would be really nice to have. On the other, they are one of those typical devil in the details kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
For example, at the moment, we don't have any, that's like the tiniest problem in all of this. We don't have any mechanism to store stuff on board of a ship that's not your own freight, or your own cargo.
Mm-hmm.
So for shipping contracts, we would need a different data structure or handling of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then on the other kind of thing is we have certain very subtle restrictions on the local markets, for example, who can post what kind of offer for the simple reasons that only certain players have a base at a planet where they actually have storage, for example. And a very typical problem that I would see in shipping contracts is you ship something to some place, but the player doesn't even have a base there or a storage facility, or it doesn't have storage. Even if you have storage space there, but it's full, then what's going to happen to that contract? I mean, we kind of have these pickup contracts with commodity exchanges when this kind of thing happens, but there we can kind of say, okay, we can do that because you're basically buying from a commodity exchange and they probably have lots of storage space, so it doesn't matter if you pick it up later.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about players interacting and them having movable ships or bases and stuff like that, I mean, you really have to think about details like that and what's going to happen in the case when I have a shipping contract and I started it, and now I'm moving away my ship from where this stuff is delivered to, and then the shipment arrives, but my storage space isn't there. What's going to happen? Is the stuff just going to get thrown out of the airlock, or what happens?
Yep. That's an interesting question. Maybe you'd have to set a fee for it not being delivered, but what if it's the fault of the person wanting it delivered and they don't have enough space and something like that?
Yeah, and then those are the things that make a seemingly simple feature like that possibly hard to realize. I'm not saying it is. At the end of the day, there might be very simple solutions to this, but we haven't talked about it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't discussed it yet.
Yeah, there's always this.
There might be a simpler system than transporting the cargo of other persons. We don't need an extra inventory system for that. The inventory just could be transferred to the other player. That's the one who's transporting it.
Yeah, something
I
like
would
that.
love the idea of having cargo elements cargo containers that just have a manifest or so, just like in reality, but of course that's complicated. But if you just say you have to transport 100 drinking water from A to B, that 100 drinking water could just become inventory of the one transporting it.
Yeah.
And if the other one doesn't show up and within the deadline of the contract, the transporter just gets to keep the inventory.
And that would add black markets, right? Because then you have contraband that you were supposed to deliver, but you can't. Anyway.
And we have a new way to cheat, of course.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we have to talk about it. But I see the need for shipping contracts. I really see it.
And what about having more ships? What about without the ship editor having to be the one that brings new ships?
This being a live stream where people want to hear interesting, fun facts about the game and the project, let me just add one more thing on the shipping contract thing. The very, very original idea for a game like Prosperous Universe that was created in my head was basically I wanted to create a shipping simulation that did not have simulated traffic, but actual traffic, which meant I had to build the economy around the shipping simulation so that people were actually having the demand. There was actual demand for actual people that wanted to ship to both the idea.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Huh?
Your internet screwed up your last sentence. Could you say that again?
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. What was my last sentence? What did you hear?
It was kind of hard. You said that it was initially meant as a shipping simulator and that actual people were required, and then it kind of broke up.
Yeah, so the idea basically was like the original, very, very original idea for a game like Prosperous Universe, not actually Prosperous Universe, but a game like it, was basically me realizing that if I want to have actual traffic in a game, in a transport simulation game that is not simulated, like not some algorithm that throws random demand on some like some flights, like it is the case for other game airlines, then we would have to have actual industries and actual economies in the game, so people would actually ship stuff. That was kind of one of the ideas. So I definitely see something happen in the far future of Prosperous Universe where you can actually do a proper shipping game style, where you actually offer line, like scheduled services between planets or something.
Yeah, awesome.
That is something that I would like to do in the future, but that's...
We'll see. Okay.
That's an interesting tidbit for the live stream.
So yeah, I'm still reading along the chat, guys, don't worry. But so what about the more ships thing? Will there be more ships regardless of shipping contracts or shipbuilding in the near future?
I guess. So
okay.
No, I mean,
I guess.
No, it's let's. Yeah, I'm guessing really.
Okay.
No, I mean, we are working on the next milestone right now. Actually, we have like one tiny release planned for maybe sometime this month. Maybe it's gonna slip into next month. We don't know. And then after that, we're going to be building a big feature again, which I think we have hinted at in the devlogs already. It's called the Expanse release, which is kind of a meta level feature that we're going to add. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But we already have in the backs of our minds that for this feature to really work, to really flourish, we need new industries in the game. We need new supply chains and stuff, and shipbuilding in some kind of shape or form is the top candidate on that list of things that we're going to do.
Cool.
We haven't discussed any details, but we've bounced around a few ideas what we could do, and some kind of simple shipbuilding I think will arrive after that next big milestone. So I guess talking sometime end of the year, Christmas, early next year, something like that. Maybe if things go well, we'll see.
Be a nice Christmas present, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll up in the chat a little bit. Oh yeah, what tiers? I mean, that's a very, very specific question, and I'm not sure. I'm guessing shipbuilding won't be a pioneer thing. It's gonna be a higher technology thing.
Yeah.
At least for the final product, of course, the pioneers are gonna get the ore.
I mean, resource-wise, it might there might be a lot of tier 1 stuff that people can do, because the materials for ships obviously have to be gathered. But building the actual ships and the components and stuff like that will most likely be higher tier stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so PNAM, not a number, something, not a number. What will happen when all the best planets are filled with I read big old big companies, and new companies can only build bases on the scrap planets. I'll have you know, I'm doing all right on Gibson, okay?
Yeah, me too on Umbra. I'm feeling good there. It's a nice planet.
Yeah, so I'll ask you to refrain from calling them scrap planets. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. Especially for new players, it's gonna be hard to land on planets where there's no commodity exchanges. Are we gonna add more faction planets, or what's the plan here? Just for the record, I genuinely don't know the answers oftentimes to the questions, because we're a distributed team and we're not always in the loop about everything. So yeah, what's the plan for that, guys?
I mean, first of all, we are not playing with all the factions yet.
Yeah.
So there is at least one more playable faction going to be added in the future. We haven't really decided about the Exodus Council yet. It's one of those factions that has a special role in the lore, so it might actually end up being a non-playable faction. But we'll see. So that obviously means that for that additional faction, we will have additional starting territory. And then, sure, I mean, the whole topic of starting locations is something that we're going to have to look into eventually, because obviously things are dynamic. The quality of the starting location changes over time. And where we're going to spawn players in the game is most likely something that we're going to have to look at in the future.
Okay.
But at the same time, I kind of like the idea. So I'm a huge fan of hardish sci-fi, and I kind of like the idea of planets like Prometor filling up, because they are this rare gem in the universe where you can actually just go out, plow a field, put in some seeds, and you grow plants, and that's super easy and super cheap.
Yeah.
And that makes them very special places in the universe that are going to be likely centers for commerce, because supplying a population there is so easy. But at the same time, obviously, they are limited in space. So I kind of like the dynamics that maybe come from this in the future.
Absolutely.
Where people decide, you know what, we can't go to Prometheus to farm, so we're just going to make the best of it, and we're going to build some hydroponics on the moon of Jupiter, just as an example. Yeah. Because it might be more expensive, but it's the only thing we can do. And maybe, depending on transport costs or whatever, it might actually make sense to do it. So these are things that I personally like to see in the future.
In terms of world building, I agree. It's just in terms of game design, it's gonna have like new players might have a harder time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely something that we have to look into. As said. So if Prometheus is a starting location that doesn't serve as a starting location anymore because it is full, then obviously that's a problem, and we have to look into that.
Guys, I messed up. I accidentally refreshed the page and I lost all the Twitch chat prior to the last two messages. So if you guys see any more questions, or if our viewers want to maybe resubmit the ones that I haven't addressed yet, please go ahead. I'm sorry. But Forest Walker says, here's a light question. Can we keep the name Umbra for the next tests?
Sure, we can. I named it.
Yeah, there you go. Michi named it, so he can just name it without using up his Name a Planet perk.
Team privilege.
Dev privilege. If a corporation completes a terraforming project, would you manually terraform that planet as a reward? So, if there's a planetary project
in here.
terraforming, huh?
There's a hornet in my room.
Oh, okay.
I have to catch it.
Okay.
I mean,
carry on.
Anyone can do wasps or bees. It has to be a hornet, right?
Now get out.
Yeah. Hornets are actually really peaceful. They're just big and scary, but they're super nice. So,
they look mean.
Yeah, they look super mean. Yeah. So you mean if a planetary terraforming project is completed, would that bring down the temperature and up the pressure to like make extra building components obsolete? I think that is the question, right?
Maybe sometime in the future. So, like an actual terraforming project, something that does what the name suggests, is definitely on the end game scale of features. So I can imagine Prosperous Universe having that because it just makes sense, right? But at the same time, it's a very complex feature, and getting it right and not making it too easy, not making it too cheap, not making it too expensive, balancing the whole thing is going to be kind of an issue, I guess. You don't want to end up having the whole world terraformed, like the whole universe, every planet is habitable or something. It's kind of boring. So yeah. It's one way to tackle that.
Also, it's gonna take a couple of hundreds of in-game years for that to happen. So I guess it would be really something that would take a long time and a big effort.
Yes.
Okay, another question from Isabab as well. What is the likelihood of some kind of short-term quick fixes to corporations, like being able to remove members and other small features?
Good question. I think I mentioned that somewhere else on the chat the other day.
Yeah.
It's just one of those say boring maintenance things that we just have to carve out some time for at some point. So I mean, with that aforementioned expanse release, corporations are going to gain a lot more relevance in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And
cool.
As a consequence of that, I think we will naturally invest some more time in building the features around managing corporations and everything.
Okay.
Because with the expanse release, there's actually going to be money involved. So the corporations will do stuff in the game world, will make money in the game world, and they will going to distribute that money to their members. And I think we all know once money comes into play, friendships end. So we're definitely going to have some kind of rudimentary corporation management features at that point.
All right. So I might just gonna keep, you know what, let's try to keep up with the questions, keep it a little shorter so we can also say things that aren't addressing specific questions. What would be the next type of contracts available? Delivery contracts, loans? We did just talk about delivery, right? Like shipping contracts. Will there be loans?
That's a difficult topic.
Okay.
I mean, in a sense, loans were always a kind of an example that we had in the back of our head for a generic contract feature. So the ultimate goal with the contract feature is that you can build whatever contract you like. But obviously we're not doing that right now because it has a lot of interface implications and can be misused for all kinds of bad stuff, I guess. Having a standard interface to create standard loan contracts would be something that would be relatively easy to do, I guess. Question is whether it's something that we need at this point. I mean, from a social point of view, it kind of makes sense. You want to have, like, I see it being used as something where you can just lend your friends some money. Maybe you just invited someone into the game. They start with a regular starting package, and you just want to help them out and provide them with the ability to get started faster because you want to play together with that person. Their loan contract would make a lot of sense, but at the same time, obviously, it's highly exploitable.
Exactly.
As always, as all our contracts, really. But yeah, it's a nice thing. I can see it happening eventually, but as so many other things, it's not something that's super high on our priority list at the moment.
Gotcha. Will there be marauding or pirating? I guess it's kind of against the peaceful nature of the game in a way. I mean, there will be taxes, which is sort of similar. Can you like? I guess not in that direct way.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those sandbox features that I could see 10 years out. You know, This universe has been online for 10 years. People getting bored, don't know what to do with their money. So let's say, okay, there's an area in space where the Exodus Council has no say on things, and there you can do whatever you want, including PvP in the classic sense. But that would be something that would be way beyond what we currently have planned.
It also goes against the thing that we've been saying, that your base is always safe, because that's something people have been frustrated with in other browser games where they had to log in every hour of the night because they were afraid of being raided, and that's not the kind of experience.
It would most definitely be a completely optional thing. A voluntary part of the game. If ever.
So this is a reposted question from before. Thanks for posting it again, because it was lost. Once the API giving access to the data will be accessible, what do you think as an acceptable companion app to develop for PU? I'm not sure I understand. It kind of presupposes that there will be an API to access the data.
I mean, it's kind of on our roadmap. Don't want to promise too much here, but I guess if we offer an API, then you can do with that API whatever that API allows, because otherwise it makes no sense to offer it. So, I mean, but that depends on so many factors. Like, we don't know what the API will grant access to. We don't know what the access limitations will be, like request quotas or whatever, to use that API. So that is something that we will have to talk about once we're there.
I mean, we're open to suggestions. Just post in the forum what you need, and we'll add it to the filter and then to the list. And when we finally arrive at the API roadmap item,
we'll know what to do.
It's one of the last items on the current roadmap.
It is, So, I'm a bit nervous. The Hornet is still in the room. So I have to look all the time over there. It's somewhere in there. That sucks.
It's not gonna. If you leave it alone, it's gonna leave you alone. Normally, I was at my parents' house recently, and I left the window open in the light zone, and apparently they're also attracted by light, because there were like 6 of them in my room when I went up. Which was great. So is there a chance the market maker price? That's something that's come up frequently as well. like, will there more dynamic market maker prices? Well, so far we've sometimes adjusted them when we saw people making absolute bank from something. We were like, okay, the market makers may be offering too much money. Are they going to be like adjusted on the fly in some way?
There's no immediate plan to do so.
Okay.
I mean, I think we've mentioned it several times before, but the market makers in their current shape are a stopgap. They exist mostly because there is no better mechanism to do the things that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And if we see a reason or a need to have more dynamic market makers in the future, we will do it. But the general goal, the idea is that to get rid of market makers altogether, because the dream or the vision for Prosperous Universe is that we have a player-driven economy all the way. So any kind of NPC interaction is not desirable. So if we can get rid of the market makers, we're going to do it. Instead of making them a more like integral part of the game.
Yeah, agreed. So what about options contracts? What does that mean?
Options contracts just means it's kind of like a future or something. So you're kind of betting on price or supply developments. So
okay.
Say Tesla is going to get bankrupt within the next 12 months, and you're shorting their stocks.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can. I guess you can. You cannot. You can do it within like what's our maximum time span on local market ads? 7 months, 7 days or something.
It's very short currently.
Yeah.
We're thinking about making
you can
it longer.
do 7-day option contracts if you want, but we don't have any plans for a actual options or future exchange at the moment.
Yep. All right.
That is a super advanced feature for serious finance nerds, I would say.
Yeah.
Isabel was saying option, for example, would be paying a fee to have the option to buy 100 units of drinking water on Katoa at 55 over the next 10-day period.
No, basically it pretty much just means that you do a trade as you would do today on a commodity exchange, but you don't do it now, you do it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So you say, we agree on trading 50 units of aluminium for 500, whatever your currency is, in 2 months. And then if the price is a lot higher than that, then the person who has made a profit, and if the price is really low, it's the opposite. That's
okay, so it's sort of a speculation thing.
It's just a trade with a date.
Right.
So it's betting on the market situation.
Okay. So this also was mentioned previously. What about a banking system? Will there be a banking system that hands out money, and who will run it?
So we have no plans right now on a banking system.
Yeah.
Really, no.
Okay, let's just leave it at that. We have no plans because I keep getting questions here. Is it possible to do some voluntary work in the graphics department or in UI UX? Voluntary work has been offered to us a couple times now, which is always awesome. We're always having a hard time trying to sort of manage what people can really do. You know. So what do you guys say?
It's like a good first step is always to just shoot us a message, and if you have something you want to offer, then send us an email or whatever, and tell us what it is that you would like or can do. So especially in the UI UX department, we actually have a job ad out at the moment, and we are looking for someone actually to do development and design, which is probably really hard to find a person like that. So we're probably going to split that up eventually and do some development, like have some developer and have some designer, different people working together to do what we want to do. On a voluntary basis, it's kind of hard to imagine this going to happen. Like it's just such an integral part of development and the project that I would also feel bad to let someone do that voluntarily, because I mean that's something that we would pay good money for someone to do it.
Yeah.
We're really open to all kinds of voluntary work, especially in community management and stuff. But when it comes to development, we really have to sit together, talk about what the options are, what we can do. But likely or not, it's more likely that this is not going to work. But
yeah,
I don't know.
If it's a little thing or one specific item, it might be possible. But for us, it's a lot of overhead to get someone new into the project. Yeah. And so we have to consider if it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might work. Just shoot us an email with what you're thinking about, and we'll discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can always suggest something, but I want to add to that it goes both ways, right? We don't want people really working for free for us all the time. For one thing, because it's kind of a dick move to have people work for free for you, and at the same time, if somebody does something, like Martin said, that's so integral to the project, like UI work, then we'll also have to kind of rely on them and get them really into the project, which at the same time we can't really expect if they're working for free, but we would have to expect, so it's always a tricky situation. Option example, I got this. Is it possible to add a command to create a calculator in Apex which supports price commands? This is playing into a bigger thing. We've had more questions asking if Apex was going to be more of a company management system, like with more tools that you would expect, like a calculator. What do you guys say? Silence.
It's just one of those things. A calculator is just something. I mean, I get where these ideas are coming from, right? Kind of given what Apex looks like and the way it works, it kind of makes sense to have those tools in the game. At the same time, we are a super tiny team. We're super constrained on development resources. I mean, I feel like basically every question that has been asked tonight, we had to answer with maybe someday, not doing it right now, other priorities, which is kind of the bane of our existence. Because we just have so little development resources that we really have to be careful what we spend them on. And you know, there's really, really good calculators out in the world. I have it right here, the classic, right? For us to spend time, even if it's just a few hours, to hack together a super rudimentary calculator in the game just doesn't make sense. It's there is so many things that we better spend our time on than stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is not saying we're not doing it at some point. I mean, like if Prosperous Universe rolls past the billions of active players and we're just swimming in money, then sure. Then we can hire 2 people that do nothing else than adding cool new gadgets to the game. But at the moment, that's just something that I would rather not do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as long as there's Excel, there's not really a point in us trying to recreate something like Excel. That's definitely going to be worse. Yeah, but Warrior's Fist says, if you could open any URL inside one of the buffers, you could just bring up your Google Sheet, for example, and use it inside Prosperous Universe.
That sounds like a really dangerous thing to do.
Yeah. Okay. Security-wise?
Yeah, I have thought about it in detail, but it sounds like a really, really bad thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Sketchy things can be done with these kinds of things.
So, what do you want to do from now on is a broad question. I think it's going to be the topic of the rest of the stream, to be honest. Isabab says, if we are considering letting more people on the test server, because there are very few people on there right now. I think one of the points about it is that we don't advertise the test server much. You can just access it right now if you have access to it via your tier. But there's not that much to test on there at the moment. So I think maybe more people will be willing and checking it out once we actually say, hey guys, you want to hop on the test server for us for a week, before the next big release. But I'm not sure if we're gonna change the support tiers, because the people who paid to get on the test servers are maybe gonna feel cheated if we just make it accessible to more.
Is that there's just in general very few people that have the required tier. What
It's
tier
true.
does it come with?
It's true. Few people have it, but at the same time, I don't really want to lower it, because it would be kind of unfair to the people who expressly paid for it.
Yeah. And to be honest,
that's one aspect, and then we are not trying to do mass tests on the staging server. It's not something that we want to do, because it just takes away from the main game at the moment.
Yeah.
In the future, that might be different, but at the moment, I think that's the case. We don't want people to split up between two different instances of the game.
Yeah.
But if we ever have a feature that really requires it, where we really have to do tests before we roll it out to the actual production game world, then we might do an ad hoc thing where we just say, okay, for the next 2 or 3 weeks, everyone can join the test server to test something. But I guess we're going to do that on the case-to-case basis.
Yep. We've done that in the past as well. When the test servers weren't always there, we just would send out a message to 20 or 30 people we knew were very active that would just hop on the test servers to expressly test something. If you want to upgrade your tier, there's no automatic upgrade pricing in there right now, but you can just shoot us a message, request your old payment to be refunded, and then buy the new tier.
It's kind of a manual process at the moment, but I'm getting these requests a lot, which is awesome. So thanks, people.
Yeah, thanks for upgrading.
Thanks really to upgrade to higher tiers. It means a lot. But yeah, I probably have to invest an hour or two soon to actually build an upgrade mechanism, so it's a bit easier for people to do it.
I'm actually gonna do something else now and not read any more questions from the chat for a moment, and look into our backlog of questions actually. So Rain, the streamer Rain9441, big shout out by the way. I'm not sure if we can raid. This is a thing on Twitch. Maybe if he's live we can raid him later. I don't know. Or if we'd have to... No, he's offline. Maybe he's watching. If you're watching, hi, welcome. Thanks a lot for playing the game. It's been bringing on a lot of new people, which is awesome. And he also asked a question beforehand, which is how are the market makers doing and what kind of tweaks have been talked about behind the scene? I think... Oh yeah, he's there. Hi.
Hi, Rain.
We did talk about the market makers previously, but just a really... interesting thing to look at maybe more in depth than what we said before is how are they actually doing in the current run. This is the market maker balance. So they're generally in the minus, if I'm reading this, those are the 3 overall scores of the market makers, like a balance. So they have been losing money, and people on average have more money than their starting funds. And the poorest one is the in situ cooperative market maker at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the one that that has been making people rich the most. The one on Prometor. Yeah. So yeah, that's how they're doing right now. That's Peter Taylor also. Peter Taylor has been by far the longest and and put out the most content about Prosperous Universe. So big shout out as well. I'm watching in class with no sound. So there will be a I have to type this in the chat. There will be a recording of the stream on YouTube for people watching in class right now.
Excellent.
All right.
I love being a bad influence on people. don't watch the streaming class. Study.
The person can't hear you, I'm afraid.
Depends on the class, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, some classes they can be excused. What's a huge positive market maker item in Katoa? Hold on, I don't know. Looks like it's BSEs. Like market makers are making a lot of money. People are buying basic structural elements.
No, they're selling them and making money that way.
Yeah, but the market maker is making money on it, right?
Yeah,
so people are buying it from the market maker because the market
right.
maker's balance goes up.
Yeah.
Self-care day.
And NC, it's basic window, so apparently not enough people are making them, they're being bought from the market maker. Yeah, I think it's basic structural elements and IC as well. So maybe more people could be making them, I don't know. Okay. All right.
I don't have the stats open because I'm on the small screen today. But
Yeah, I don't either. I just have this screenshot right here. It's not dynamic, otherwise I could tell you more. But I didn't want to open all the back-end stats.
One of these days, we're going to pull an EVE online and have an economist do weekly reports on the market or something like that. Looking forward to that.
Having sort of a radio in the game, like a radio buffer that has a 24/7 program that's updated every now and then. That is my personal dream for this kind of stuff. Yeah, all right. Oh geez, now people talking about skipping classes. I totally didn't skip a lot of classes, and I totally didn't have. No, I'm not gonna go into that. So, no, I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I think we got the. I think we got the questions from the chat so far.
But I'm probably going to embarrass myself, but who's 3Dog?
I don't know either.
Where are you getting that from?
Isabel is asking about whether 3Dog can DJ the Prosperous Universe Economics Radio.
Oh, I don't know.
There's a YouTube link now. I cannot click that right now.
I clicked it on my other, but I can't turn up the audio. Maybe it's a pseudonym for Scott Manley, because he's a DJ as well. But it's 3Dog.
I mean, if you wanna be on the air 24 hours a day, then I guess we need more than one DJ. Like, there's probably some basic labor laws that demand it.
Probably. 3Dog is fictional. Okay, that's a Fallout 3 character. I'm not really familiar with the Fallout lore.
Yeah, I don't really get around to playing games anymore, especially not the ones that suck up hours by the dozens. So I really haven't had the time to dive into Fallout yet.
Yeah.
One of these days, maybe.
I got Fallout 4 VR with my HTC Vive, and I still haven't gotten around to even trying it out.
That's a shame.
So does the upgrade process work if you have a key? Well, if you never made a purchase, we're not gonna refund you the money for the key you got without paying. but you can still upgrade.
It's a good question, actually. I mean, because the keys that we hand out so far are actually nothing else than an asteroid tier that you get for free.
Exactly.
So in a sense, that's worth what the asteroid tier costs at the moment. So if you upgrade to a higher one, I mean, depending on what the upgrade mechanism looks like, I haven't really thought about it yet, whether it's going to be actual difference or whether it's going to be a little bit more expensive than just buying it in the first place.
Yeah.
But in principle, if we don't do any special rules or anything, then if you got a key from somewhere, that's essentially worth 10 euros.
Yeah, exactly. But just right now, in the manual process, I don't think we're going to refund 10 euros to somebody who got it for 0.
Yes. It's also not possible. I cannot refund a payment that hasn't happened.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I can send money. I mean, I could send money to people, but I don't.
All right. So, we got some more questions from the backlog. Frostwood asked, "What ideas do we have for filling out tier 3 and beyond?" You were mentioning something of new industries before.
Yeah, shipbuilding will surely play a part, or play a role in that part.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So for station equipment, it really depends on the features that we want to develop, because there's no point in bringing new materials and into the game that can't be used for anything. So it really depends on the features.
And it's not that clear yet, or we haven't decided yet.
Yeah, if there's shipbuilding, I mean shipbuilding is coming, and that's of course material heavy, because ships are material things, so we can expect that the material tree changes or gets added to in the process.
Okay, hold on. So now more chat stuff going on. I'm sorry, I'm kind of bad at multitasking. Will you post the market maker sheets to Discord so we can obsessively analyze them? Well, sometimes I'll post some excerpts in the general chat. I already did that before, so maybe I'll do something like that later. But just screenshots of certain things, because it's not unfair, because technically everybody can access them at that point. If you're gonna put in the extra work, it's okay to have more information, right? What's your favorite starting industry? Oh, that's sort of a nice question for what? I don't know. What's a good one to get into right now? I feel like manufacturers right now is kind of tough. Many people are getting into the business, I feel like.
I don't have a favorite.
It really depends on where you start. I haven't played as a farmer yet, so maybe in the next test.
Maybe don't go into farming.
Quite well.
Well, since Prometor is full, maybe farming isn't the best right now. It's probably gonna be a lot of farmers around at the moment.
Yeah, but there's a shortage of rations on Katoa, so maybe farming there isn't too bad. Someone should try it out.
C English 3 says, "This has to be an asset. I need a mobile app for this addiction." So, yes, this might be happening sooner than initially planned. Really depends on some behind the scenes stuff right now, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we talked about it on the devlog, so it's not really a secret. We've applied for funding. That's also what we've been having 2 job ads out for quite some time now, which is all based on that funding that we're hoping to get. And the whole project that we handed in for funding was basically constructed around the mobile interface for the game. Not an app per se, but at least an interface that works on mobile.
Yeah.
But that still depends on a huge amount of factors. So first of all, we have to get that funding, and then the even harder part is to actually find the people to do it. There's going to be news on that next year. And for once, we actually have a timeline. So if that happens, we actually have to finish the project by end of 2020. And that's kind of the timeline that we're working with right now. But before that, I see minor improvements for mobile use, especially the drag and drop thing that people have been complaining about for good reason. So we might be doing that soon, or at some point we can get around to it.
We're gonna know by the end of this year if it's happening with the whole funding thing, and if so, we're gonna use it to work on the mobile app. If not, or the mobile version. If not, it's gonna be further out in the future. Okay, let's have a live Grafana dashboard of the market maker. Well, we might have that, but it's not public. Okay, very nice. Lots of discussion going on about which the chat has opinions on what is and isn't a good place to be and industry to go in right now.
There's people with opinions on the internet?
Yes, and
I don't think so.
To be honest,
Never heard about that.
It's players, so they probably know better than us what's
true.
currently going on in the industry.
I'm a low-key player. I play as a farmer or a miner because basically I don't have time for anything more complex than that. So, yeah. I'm pretty sure other players know a lot more about my game than I do, which is not new. It's something that happens.
And it's great. It's so awesome to see people really get into it. Okay. Now some questions are gonna overlap. Naturally, I'm just gonna quickly go through the list. Will there be another survey like the last one we did with Google Sheets that led to some great quick fixes for the player base? So right now, as you can tell, our player base is a lot bigger, and we don't really have to ask for feedback the way we used to. We're just getting spammed with it on Discord and everywhere. So that's why we set up the filter for the list and tried to prioritize. I'm gonna look it up right now. The list, which is features we deemed interesting and that actually made it past our internal forum, is over 200 items long. So
it's never gonna finish and end this project.
It's always gonna grow faster than it's gonna be unless we're the 30 people operation at some point. But right now I feel like we have a good communication going with the community, and if something is really on fire, like the price bands, we are flexible enough to do it in time to provide a fix. But in terms of the priorities people have and the questions that keep coming up, I feel like we have a decent enough overview without making a Google Sheets survey.
I mean, also dependent on the funding, pretty much. We have this ad out for a game design position, and once that position is filled, then that person that sits on this game design position might deem it a good idea to do surveys. So it could happen that we're going to do surveys in the future to figure certain things out, but nothing concrete at the moment.
It's exactly how the last one came about. When we did a survey, it was Alex, our previous game designer, who freelanced for us, who asked us to do it. So if the next game designer is like, I need this and that information, yes, then it's gonna be similar to the previous one, I guess.
I think Alex is on the list of users watching us, so careful what you say now.
Okay. That was all I was gonna say.
Alex is great, and we're really sad he had to leave for bigger, much better paid adventures.
That's what I was gonna say. Really sad he was gonna leave for so much money to be made elsewhere. Do you slow down the speed of spaceships to avoid too much hoarding? What? I think this is a part of the ongoing discussion. I'm not sure. More surveys. Hi, Alex. Alex is always in favor of more surveys, but there has to be a person kind of evaluating them meaningfully. So let's wait and see who our next dedicated game designer is going to be. All right. So this is it for the very concrete questions, and we've been going for almost an hour and a half. So I was going to say, what are the very concrete next updates? The next one, I'm not sure if we've mentioned this, is going to be called Prelude. When is it going to hit, and what is it going to bring?
So Prelude kind of has it used to be the internal name for the prelude to the release following after that one. So the idea is that Prelude will introduce some rather tiny changes that are going to be meaningful later on. So one of them is production fees, which doesn't sound like much really. It's just what the name suggests. So if you want to produce something, then you have to pay, and you're on a certain game world, then you have to pay a fee for that production order, depending on its size. And for the moment, in the Prelude release, that those fees are going to go to the factions. And this is just there to prepare players, or kind of get players used to the fact that these fees exist. And in the expanse feature, we're going to expand on that. There's going to be a mechanism for corporations to collect this money. That's pretty much the general idea. What's the other feature besides production fees?
Building depreciation, right?
Building depreciation, exactly, yes. That's kind of, we put it into the Prelude feature, but it's not it's not necessarily Prelude to expanse. It's just something that we want to put in. One part of it is we want to give that aforementioned bonus to new players. And on the other hand, what it also means is that because buildings depreciate over time, we kind of want to have people replacing their structures, which kind of increases the demand for construction materials. That's kind of the idea behind that one.
All right. Are production fees also going to be applied to the collectors, extractors, rigs? So buildings without any inputs?
Yes.
Right,
so the production fees, we call them fees, but they're nothing else in taxes. And at the end of the day, once the corporations take control, they can also they have fine-grained control over what those fees look like. So first of all, you can set different fees per industry. So for example, you could do very high fees on resource extraction, very low fees on, say, any kind of manufacturing. Because maybe that's kind of your industrial policy, whatever. If you kind of get a hold of a planet like Prometor and just crank up the fees for agriculture, you're probably going to be a made man, but also going to have some disturbing effects on the economy. So this is going to be one of the possibilities of that new feature, most likely also having different sets of fees for corporation members and non-members. I'm not sure whether that's on the roadmap at the moment, but it's definitely something that I can see coming.
So Isabel says production fees and depreciation are necessary evils. Will there be anything fun to look forward to in Prelude? I'm not sure if you've been playing the same game, but it's this is serious business, right? No, I'm kidding.
It's going to be a very small release, and there's actually one thing, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to reduce the core module cost by quite an amount.
There you go.
It will be cheaper to build new colonies.
New bases are going to be more affordable, and also it is kind of fun to have buildings have higher upkeep because it makes it easier for new players. Are production fees gonna play into that same thing? Are they gonna advantage or disadvantage bigger companies in some way?
No. Right now there's no plan, but we have discussed if we should give new players a bonus on production fees, or how's it called? So they don't have to pay production fees for a while. But it's not implemented yet, and we might add it later on.
Okay, yeah, we'll see what the feedback is, probably, right? So on your website you said once it goes into early access there's a monthly payment to play. Is it cheaper for pro members or something, or is it pro only Or is Pro only helpful in this stage of the game? So the distinction we're drawing right now between Pro and Trial is going to be the same, except after first access, when the monthly payment system starts, you're going to have to pay monthly to have Pro. Like right now, there's not going to be any distinction between different tiers of Pro. It's just you have Pro features during the month where you pay for Pro. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You'll still be able to have the support tiers if you want to pay more, because there's a really hard cap, which is something other browser game developers have warned us about. You cannot spend more than the monthly subscription that Pro is gonna cost, unless you're gonna like use this Kickstarter-like system that we have running right now. What if I produce something that has no faction or corporation controlling it? Where the production fee go? So is there going to be a Wild West on the fringes of the universe where people have no faction controlling them and taxing them?
Yes. If there's no faction or corporation, there are no production fees.
Oh, that's
basically what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the expanse. We want the players to expand in new areas of the universe.
It makes a lot more sense for the core module to be cheaper as well then.
Yeah.
Someone must have thought about this.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody's designing this game. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was actually something that was asked by another player before as well. If we're paying production fees, can we have it go to maintaining the COXI on the core planets, or is it going to replace the Chamber of Global Commerce fees, or is the upkeep separate?
That's a separate thing.
So I thought, yeah, okay.
I mean, COXI just provides a buff that is completely unrelated to everything else. And that new mechanism that they're going to build, the name is kind of still in flux, so we're not using it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that mechanism is basically what do you call it? It's a governance feature about who controls the planet and who sets the rules. So part of that feature will also be to set the fees for, say, the local markets.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, the COXI will be unaffected by this, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much that you can influence there, or should, for that matter. But for example, the local market fees, we currently have this base fee and a time-based fee, depending on how long you want the ad to be placed. These are things that, with that new feature in place coming in the expanse, the corporation in control will be able to set. So they could decide, okay, you can place ads here for free, pretty much.
Do you want to expand a little on how factions and corporations are going to take control, going to be able to claim control over a planet, for example?
Yes, I think. Right, Michi?
Yeah, why not?
Right?
Yeah.
So to really cut it as short as possible, because we're already talking for 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
The general idea is that we want to give corporations the general the capability of controlling the planet. So what we have in mind is that there's going to be some kind of political building or structure that has to be built, most likely as a planetary project,
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that COXI or local market is built. And once this building exists, corporations can vie for influence points, pretty much. It's kind of, for lack of better naming so far, that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, it's not the corporations doing it directly, it's the players. But the players have affiliations. They basically, they can collect those influence points by fulfilling tasks provided by the Activist Council.
Okay.
That's kind of the lore at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to use for that. So what the Activist Council basically kind of places an offer and says, please provide us with 10 units of whatever, and in return you get that many influence points. And then people who collect those influence points can use them to vote on the candidates of corporations. So in a sense, it's quite similar to the way the Coxie works. It's just a different way of generating the influence points with it. And that is going to be the first version. That's kind of what we have in mind for the first version. And obviously the whole thing is going to become very, very interesting once there are really big developed planets with hundreds or even thousands of players on them, because there even a low production fee can cause a lot of revenue. So that's at least what we imagine and hope for.
So that's gonna be rolled out with the rest of Expanse. This planetary control stuff. And is there a rough timeline for post-prelude releases? Probably not.
End of the year, early next year.
Okay.
Probably.
I mean, we can give a very rough preview. I mean, the general idea is that we have decided that, or we know that currently, if people reach a certain tier in the material tree, the game just kind of ends for them. The Expanse offers an alternative thing you can do in the game because it kind of introduces that political mechanism.
Yeah.
But obviously, what we're going to need eventually is we're going to have to expand the material tree as well. So, as I said before, once Expanse is in the game, we will definitely start introducing new industries, most likely some kind of shipbuilding, to introduce a lot more new resources and new components. I mean, the whole shipbuilding stuff will be, I'm pretty sure, dozens, if not hundreds of new materials that people will be able to play with.
Okay, so that's something to look forward to over the next few months. Quests with the Exodus Council should be issuing quests. I'm guessing it won't be classic quests per se to gain influence points.
It's like the most basic form of a quest, if you want to. I mean, it's basically a quest, yes, but it's a very super simple quest in that a thing pops up that says, "Hey, we want this material now." The whole idea here is it's different in its design from the Coxie in that the Coxie has a predefined transparent upkeep, so everyone knows what is required to provide for the Coxie to work. Because the idea here is that players on the planet work together to get that buff that the Coxie provides. But for this new feature, it's quite different. We want people to compete over those influence points. So to not give an advantage to people, these quests are going to pop up at different times with different kinds of materials, with different volumes, and there's going to be several ones at any given time. So that no single or faction, unless they invest a huge amount of resources, is going to be able to fulfill all of them. That's kind of the idea there.
How quickly can a planet change hands? The moment one other faction has one more influence point, is it gonna reclaim control over all the taxing and everything?
No, it's going to be more like a election kind of thing, probably a week or 2 weeks long or so. We haven't decided on the duration of the term yet.
Okay. So much of the chat is real life politics. I'm gonna skip over that. But yeah, politics in the game is gonna be fun. I agree. All right. So yeah, gotcha. This sounds really cool, and we've been going for an hour and 38 minutes. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. You guys keep the politics memes coming in the chat as long as you want to. Yeah, I'm gonna say it because we always say it. We should do this more often. It's always super fun, and yeah, we're gonna end up doing it next year probably. Maybe with the Expanse release, with the Prelude release. When were we gonna drop that?
End of the month, beginning of next month, something like that, which is quite soon. So
yeah, maybe too soon.
Yeah, too soon.
Yeah. For another live stream. Okay. Anyway, so you guys know we're always on Discord and everywhere. So if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. Also about the voluntary help and about upgrade tiers. Just address us directly. Yeah, thanks a lot for listening in, for sticking around, for asking questions. So anything you guys wanna add to wrap it up?
No, I mean, just maybe as a final word, I mean, I'm super thrilled at how things are going right now. I wouldn't have thought this to take off like this when we started free to play. And yeah, I'm quite happy and I'm quite positive, which means a lot. When I say it, when I feel positive, ask my team. That's very happy. But I'm mildly positive about the development of the universe in the near future. It's looking pretty cool right now.
Yeah, I can attest to that. That's mildly positive is as good as it gets. So you guys are really doing something here. Greetings to Rostov. Yeah, we're all in different places.
Oh
yeah.
So I have to be really careful with economic policy in the game because at some point in time, people are going to show up with baseball bats in my heart.
No, I think we're fairly apolitical for for a game that's all about economics. Okay. Anyway, so again, thanks a lot for watching and asking questions. I hope I'm not screwing this up now. See you guys in the game. Bye bye.
See you guys.
See you. Bye bye.